Good afternoon. It's Sunday, May 31st. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News, broadcasting from Jerusalem. The 6 world powers have reportedly agreed on a method to restore UN sanctions on Iran if Tehran breaks the terms of a future nuclear deal. The agreement clears away a major obstacle to an accord ahead of the June 30th deadline. The new understanding between the United States, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and China gives the big powers a snapback option in case the deal falls apart after sanctions are lifted. Other hurdles still remain, including Tehran's refusal to grant UN inspectors access to Iranian military sites, the timing of relief sanctions, and verification of compliance. As part of the new agreement on sanctions snapback, suspected breaches by Iran would be taken up by a dispute resolution panel, which would assess the allegations and come up with a solution. The International Atomic Energy Agency would also continue reporting on Iran's nuclear program, which will provide the powers and the United Nations Security Council with information on Tehran's activities to better estimate compliance. Non-compliance would allow sanctions to be restored. During a break in the Iran talks, U.S. Secretary John Kerry was involved in a serious cycling accident. Kerry has been flown by helicopter to a hospital outside of Geneva. U.S. officials said that Kerry suffered a leg injury, but the Secretary of State did not lose consciousness. According to the Washington Post, the leg is broken. The accident happened near Sunjai, France, located 40 kilometers from the Swiss border. Kerry apparently hit a curb, causing the fall. X-rays have been taken of the leg, and it is still unclear how long it will be before the Secretary of State can resume his normal duties. Kerry is known to be an avid cyclist and often rides during breaks in his various diplomatic missions. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today that Israel was facing an international campaign to sully its image. To counter that campaign, Netanyahu will be meeting with a host of foreign ministers and diplomats in the coming weeks, beginning today with German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier. Here with all the latest is IBA's Eli Wagelander.
Prime Minister Netanyahu told his ministers at the weekly cabinet meeting in Jerusalem today that the international campaign against Israel had nothing to do with its policies in the Gaza Strip or the West Bank, but rather stemmed from a desire to deny Israel its existential right to exist. The last thing that we need to do is bow our heads and ask where we erred, where we went wrong, Netanyahu said. We did not err, we did not do wrong. We are put up to standards that no other democracy must face. We do not need to justify ourselves, we just need to tell the truth. Netanyahu's remarks come on the heels of the controversy in the International Soccer Association FIFA surrounding the failed Palestinian proposal to suspend Israel. It doesn't matter what we do, but rather what we represent, Netanyahu said. They say if only we were nicer or more generous. We've made many concessions, and it hasn't changed a thing because this campaign of delegitimization is much deeper. It wishes to strip us our right to live here. Before the cabinet meeting, Netanyahu met with German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier, telling the German Foreign Minister that he should tell the Palestinians to stop their campaign to delegitimize Israel and get back to the negotiating table without preconditions. He also reiterated that he was interested in renewing peace talks with the Palestinians.
I think the only way to move that is through direct negotiations. Unfortunately, the Palestinian Authority has moved away from these negotiations, but I believe and I remain committed to the idea that the only way we can achieve a lasting peace is through the concept of 2 states for 2 peoples, a demilitarized Palestinian state that recognizes the Jewish nation-state of Israel.
Earlier in the day, Steinmeier met with President Reuven Rivlin and told him that work on reconstructing the Gaza Strip must be sped up, warning that failure to do so could bring another military conflict with the Palestinians.
We believe that there is a need to come back to negotiations about the 2-state solution. But with regard to the risky situation in Gaza, I think we have also to think about some concrete steps for improving the situation for the daily life there. Without that, I'm afraid the situation is again escalating, and there can be no interest on both sides.
That you could be the one to bring to the idea of both people that the need and the only way to bring to an end the conflict, to bring to an end the tragedies that we are living in, is by direct negotiation.
Steinmeier also met this morning with Deputy Foreign Minister Tzipi Chotovely, who told the German foreign minister that Israel expects Germany to lead the fight against the labeling of products manufactured in the West Bank. Boycotting goods harms the entire fabric of life in Judea and Samaria, both for the Israelis and the Palestinians, Chotavelli said. She also told Steinmeier that she appreciated Germany's firm stance against Iran becoming a threshold nuclear power, and that Israel appreciates Germany's uncompromising position against the rising anti-Semitism in Europe. Finally, in political news, Likud MK Benny Begin has agreed to step down from his post as minister without portfolio after a week-long standoff with the prime minister over his place in the cabinet. Begin was forced out to make room for Gilad Erdan, who rejoined the cabinet last week after coming to terms with Netanyahu and taking over the public security ministry, among others. Under an agreement with other coalition partners, Likud is only allowed half the number of ministers. Begin is won over that number. Laura?
Thank you, Ali. A day after his re-election as FIFA president, Sepp Blatter was in a defiant mood regarding the corruption scandal that has rocked the soccer world. Several FIFA officials remain in police custody, and Blatter insists that he has nothing to fear. Blatter lashed out at U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch and the $150 million bribe scheme she alleges, and suggests that Washington went too far into the internal business of world soccer. Some in the press corps were in a hostile frame of mind towards Blatter.
You had any direct contact or contact at all with either the Swiss or the US authorities who are conducting these two criminal investigations? And if not, are you concerned at some stage you might be arrested?
Listen, the question number one, no. Question number two, arrested for what? I have said I forgive, but I don't forget when it comes to persons and not to facts. And I have said also yesterday, I have been elected by 133 national associations, but I am the president of everybody. And I'm also the president of those associations. They have been against me. So therefore, this had no impact in my view, for the future. I will go to the competitions, I will go to New Zealand, I will go to Canada, and it's neutral. It's absolutely as president. But when it comes to personal attack, I say yes, that I was touched. I was touched. And you know the whom is concerned.
There is sharp internal Palestinian squabbling over the weekend relating to the decision by the Palestinian delegation to drop the motion to suspend the Israeli Soccer Federation from FIFA. PA soccer head Jabril Rajoub is being slammed in the Palestinian press and the social media as a traitor, a loser, an Israeli collaborator, and a sellout for a VIP card. Hamas called the Rajoub move a missed opportunity and are demanding that he be fired from his post. In several of the caricatures, Rajoub is being given a red card, which is handed out by the referee when a player is ordered off the field of play. For his part, Rajoub rejected the attacks on his motives, adding that the FIFA Congress vote to set up a committee to monitor treatment of Palestinian soccer teams was an important achievement for the Palestinians, and he does not care, nor is he concerned by the criticism aimed at him. Back here in Israel, a nationwide IDF Home Front Command exercise began today, designed to check the country's preparedness to deal with possible war on 3 fronts. The scenario shows Israel having to deal with massive rocket barrages landing on several population centers simultaneous. Much of the 5-day land, sea, and air-based exercise will also include civilian organizations such as police, firefighters, medical and hospital services, local councils, and the relevant government ministries, and of course the country's residents. Sirens will be sounded on Tuesday at 11:05 in the morning and at 7:05 in the evening, when the public is expected to take shelter in the nearest protected zone as if there were a genuine attack. Communities in the south of the country will be excluded from the training due to their living through years of rocket attacks from Gaza. The annual drill this year, called Turning Point 15, will also involve a simulated attack on Ben Gurion Airport and the creation of a tent city to house entire populations that became homeless due to rocket damage. Ramat HaSharon Mayor Yitzhak Rochberger was sentenced today by the Tel Aviv Magistrates Court to 6 months of community service and fined 40,000 shekels. Rochberger was convicted in December of 2014 on charges of fraud, breach of public trust, and forging corporate and other documents. The sentence includes a moral turpitude clause, which prevents his return to public office. He was also given 6 months probation. Rachberger refused to accept the verdict, claiming that an injustice was done to him, and declared that he will appeal the sentencing. The state prosecutor said that this was an important message, that a public servant who was convicted of a breach of public trust should not be allowed to return to a public position. The mayor of Or Yehuda, David Yosef, collapsed in court today at a remand hearing and was taken to Wolfson Hospital in Holon. Yosef was arrested following accusations of sexual misconduct by 11 female employees in the municipality. He is also accused of misuse of public funds, fraud, breach of trust, and obstruction of justice. The hearing went ahead without the defendant. Yosef has been mayor of Or Yehuda since 2007. The crime crackdown operation known as File 512 continues to be in the news. The Rishon LeZion Magistrates Court today extended the remand of alleged underworld bigwigs Shimon Sabach, Yosef Levy, and Yisrael Ozipa by 11 days. The suspects are being investigated for alleged involvement in a plot to assassinate convicted crime boss Zev Rosenstein. 40 suspects related to the investigation were brought before the court for an extension of their remands. The Israeli organization Yisrael has sent a team to the southwest United States to help relief efforts following flooding that's killed at least 21 people and spurred mass evacuations. Yisrael Director Shachar Zahavi said that the 10-person relief team will try to support the thousands of people impacted by these latest storms. They are heading to Texas, where they will help with the removal of debris from damaged houses. Yisrael will be partnering with the U.S. disaster relief organization Team Rubicam and will focus on the area outside Austin. Yisrael has been to the U.S. on numerous occasions, including floods in Denver and Detroit, wildfires in Washington, hurricanes in Oklahoma, and Hurricane Sandy in New York. 102 new immigrants from Ukraine have arrived in Israel on a special flight from Kiev. 46 families of new Olim were on the flight, sponsored by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. 34 children and 5 infants were among the arrivals, with most of the newcomers planning to settle in Bat Yam and Petach Tikva. The IFCJ has brought in some 700 Olim from Ukraine in 5 flights, including many who are refugees from embattled regions of the country. They gave each immigrant $1,000 and children $500 to help them settle in Israel. The funding is in addition to the usual immigrant basket, which they receive from the Ministry of Absorption. The IFCJ President Yechiel Eckstein said that his group will continue efforts to bring Ukrainian Jews to Israel in what he called a strategic process of protecting Jews who are in distress, while at the same time strengthening Israeli society. Israeli authorities are set to relocate the illegal Bedouin village of Abu Nawar, located east of Jerusalem, moving the residents to a planned township. The plan is run up against opposition from the Bedouin, who are being backed by the Palestinian Authority and UN officials in the West Bank. The civil administration said the master plan for the Bedouin, who are members of the Jahalin tribe, would provide the evacuees with plots of land, including proper infrastructure, water, electricity, and sewage. But Palestinian Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah has vowed to go to the United Nations to halt the demolition of the illegal village in an attempt to block their relocation from the strategic and diplomatically sensitive E1 corridor, linking Jerusalem and the West Bank Israeli city of Ma'ale Adumim. Israel has given the 110 families until today to register for transfer. An Israeli economist issued a report saying the move would be costly.
The areas where this report focuses is Area C and East Jerusalem, and in these areas they are of extreme high economic importance to the Palestinian economy, to a future Palestinian state, and these demolitions create deep social damage, which through compensations will have to be restored. And this is something the Israeli government one day will have to pay. One of the conclusions of this report is that the compensations that Palestinians will demand based on this displacement would constitute a very deep debt on the Israeli economy, a debt which the Israeli government does not yet acknowledge.
Today, the world is marking No Tobacco Day. Smokers are being urged not to light up for at least one day. Here in Israel, 1 out of 5 Israelis smoke, and each year an estimated 8,000 die of tobacco-related causes. IBA's Ari O'Sullivan brings us more.
Smokers say there's nothing as refreshing as taking a long, smooth drag, filling up your lungs with tasty smoke and soothing that addiction to nicotine. For some, it's a personal habit, lighting up when they get the chance, 10, 20 times a day. For others, it's a social thing.
It's not like cigarette. You need every time you smoke cigarette. So you can't take it. Sometimes it's 1 week I don't smoke. It's not important in my life.
So smoking is a cultural thing?
Yes, if I have to sit with my friend and have couples something like this, I smoke. If I don't have, I don't smoke.
According to CBS figures, some 19.8% of Israelis smoke, which is actually down from 23.1% 2 years ago. But the trend is for a significant number of young people, especially in the army, to smoke. Arabs are statistically heavier smokers than Jews, with 1 out of every 4 saying they smoke. While smoking is illegal today in public places, the ban is often violated in pubs, cafes, and restaurants. The health funds in Israel offer free workshops to kick the habit. Here in Jerusalem's Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, smokers are shown how much carbon monoxide lingers in the body long after the cigarette is finished. It was enough for some to decide to quit on the spot.
I finished. Why? Because it's very heavy on my chest, and it make me tired all the time. And now, thanks God, I finished the cigarettes. Never. I will never touch them again. First time to stop cigarettes? Yes, the first time, yes.
Smokers will tell you it's easy to quit. They've done it many times. The World Health Organization says smoking killed 100 million people in the 20th century and warned it could kill up to 1 billion this century if trends continue. But as the world observes No Tobacco Day, it certainly didn't look like anyone here was taking it seriously. Ariel Sullivan for IBA News.
Dr. Nachum Kowalski, a medical consultant, told IBA while the number of smokers is dropping, it is still a huge problem.
It's unfortunately still quite prevalent and it's still quite public. There have been actually tremendous efforts made to reduce the options for people to smoke in public. Unfortunately, they're not as forced as they should. There's another factor that the Army is obviously a big part of our day-to-day lives, and there's a tendency more for people to smoke in Army environments. They start smoking in the Army, continue to smoke because of the Army. So actually, the fact that the numbers are lower than the average in the EU is a good sign. Unfortunately, actually, in the last year, the numbers are a bit up. So everyone really has to pay attention. And a lot of it starts at home. You know, there's no question that parental smoking is one of the key reasons why children begin to smoke. Obviously, certain cultural backgrounds and certain geographical areas tend to smoke more often. Ultimately, the message has to be very simple. It's horribly addictive. It's extremely difficult to stop, but it's the best possible thing you can do for your health to stop.
Do you think a day like No Tobacco Day is going to bring awareness to this to Israelis?
I absolutely think that increasing awareness is critical. I think one of the key groups that can help with this are physicians. Thank God we live in an excellent, in my opinion, really definitely one of the best medical systems in the world. And thank God pretty much everybody has a doctor, and those doctors and every person in the medical community should be constantly reminding people. Hopefully also, the more it becomes unacceptable, people's group of friends will also, and Facebook friends will remind people, stop smoking. So anything you can do to raise awareness is worth it.
If it's so bad for you, why are Israelis continuing, why are people around the world continuing to smoke?
People do a lot of things that they shouldn't do. Again, the primary problem is that, as amazing as it sounds, smoking is one of the most difficult addictions to break. There are people who've been addicted to hard drugs who said that quitting smoking is more difficult than quitting hard drugs. The tobacco companies are very active in making smoking addictive. And the fact that the numbers have come down as low as they have is tremendous. But considering still you're talking about a fifth on average of the Israeli population that's smoking, and of course you have to break it down by different social groups and so on, but still talking about that kind of number, it's horrible. It costs billions of dollars, and the human suffering involved is just, it's tragic. So, you know, of all the things, you know, we worry about, obviously, legitimately, we worry about Iran and we worry about our neighbors. But the fact is that smoking is killing so many of us on a regular basis. It's as I said, it's just tragic.
Okay. In entertainment news, Hello Dolly is coming to Jerusalem for 7 performances. Starting next Sunday, June 7th, and running through the 17th, the Beit Hillel Theater Workshop at the Hebrew University presents the classical musical comedy for the whole family in English. Set in New York City at the end of the 19th century, the famous tale of the legendary matchmaker Dolly Gallagher-Levy comes to the stage by the producers of Guys and Dolls, Chorus Line, West Side Story, and My Fair Lady, to name just a few. That's Hello Dolly, opening next week. Tickets cost 80 shekels and can be ordered at 02-581-7714. Taking a look at local finance, and with no currency trading on Sundays, the shekel remains the same, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange started off the trading week in the plus column. Here's a look at the mid-afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather, and temperatures are expected to rise slightly tomorrow. Here are the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. And that's all for this newscast. Aaron Viner will be here tomorrow with more news from Israel and abroad. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield, wishing you a great evening, and shalom from Jerusalem.